Hello, everybody. Sunday Adelaja here. We are happy to have you back in our series that we have been doing for some time now, Understanding, Service, and Stewardship. And we want to encourage you to go share the message. Go and share it. Share. Understanding, Service, and Stewardship as the meaning of life, because really, the meaning of life is about love. And love is manifested through service and stewardship. So, service is the essence and the meaning of life. Serving and stewardship. But the topic of today is the purpose of everything is stewardship. The purpose of everything is stewardship. The purpose of your life is to be able to be a steward of the things that God has entrusted into your hand. The purpose of coming to the earth, the reason why you are sent here is for stewardship. We are all sent here to serve. We are all here to serve the purposes of God on the earth. We are created for stewardship, to serve God and to steward and manage His resources that He has put into us from even before we came. And there is nobody that comes here empty-handed. God doesn't send anyone here to completely empty, devoid of everything. No. God packages something into you. God packages something into everyone, so that when you come here, you could become a steward to those things. You could become a steward of those things that God has put in you. You are a steward of the gifts that you have. You are a steward of the talents that are in you. You are a steward of the calling that God has put in you, of the purpose that God put in you before you even came to this earth. But even after you have been here in the earth, you are still a steward of the things in your environment. You are a steward of the things that are around you. You are a steward of the people that God surrounded you with, of the environment, of the nature, of the blessings that God has put all around you. You are a steward to your body. You are a steward to your mind. You are a steward of your spirit. And so everything that we have, we are only a steward of them all. What does it mean to be a steward? It means that you are supposed to account for those things that you have. You have them, but you are not the owner of them. You have them, but you are not acting as if they belong to you, but you act and behave as if you need to manage them for the person who gave them to you. You have to manage them according to the purpose of the person that has entrusted those things into your life. And that's why we are all stewards. The purpose of everything is stewardship. The purpose of marriage is stewardship. The purpose of children is stewardship. The purpose of money is stewardship. The purpose of influence is stewardship. The purpose of production is stewardship. The purpose of service is stewardship. The purpose of everything is stewardship. Stewardship is the reason for everything. Is the reason even God Himself serves us. And you too, being in the nature of God, we are supposed to serve, because God is love. But you see, many people talk about love, but they don't understand that love is manifested through service. Love is manifested through stewardship. There is a story in the Bible. I mean, not just a story, but the Bible is littered with all these stories in the Bible is connected to service one way or the other. Either those people who understood it and lived a right and fulfilled life, or people who didn't understand it and messed up their lives and the consequences that they reaped. So the Bible is a book of memory, an example for all of us to be able to see how life is supposed to be lived, and people who got it right and the people who got it wrong, so that we might be able to learn from the two of them, from those people who got it right and from those people who got it wrong. Life is so let's look at the life of Jesus, for example, because that's the perfect life. It's the most perfect life that we have as an example. And I say the purpose of everything is stewardship. So what's the purpose of Jesus coming here? Stewardship. To die for us and to serve, to redeem us and to pay the ransom for us, so that we don't die eternally, so that we don't go to hell. Stewardship. How did He live His life? He lived a life of service. He was going about doing good. He was going about healing the sick. He was going about delivering all those people who are oppressed by the enemy. Serving. He was going about setting the captives free. He was feeding the hungry. He was healing the sick. He was teaching in their synagogues, preaching in their villages. A full life of stewardship. If you look at the life of Paul and the apostles, it's life of stewardship. And in serving God and in trying to be a steward of everything they had the opportunity to learn and to have, they were ready to pay the ultimate price, and they actually died for the cause of the gospel, because the gospel has been entrusted into their hands, and they saw themselves as the steward of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, and they were ready to die to preserve that legacy and to be able to serve that purpose and pass that gospel to the next generation. And because they died, and because they were martyred, and because they understood stewardship, hence the gospel got to us today. Your life is never about you. Stop living for yourself. Stop just making plan about yourself. Everything you do is supposed to be for the service of others. Your education is supposed to be, the goal of it is not just for you to get a good job and get a good position and make nice money and be able to provide for yourself and for your family. No, life is about stewardship. It's about service. So when you get education, you should be thinking, how can I use this education to serve God, His purpose, and to serve others? So your job is about stewardship. It's about service. Yeah, you are supposed to find out, how can I use this job to serve the purposes of people, to serve my neighbor as myself, and to serve the purposes of God. The marriage that you have is about stewardship. How can I use this marriage to glorify God and to serve my neighbor and to improve the conditions of my country and my neighborhood? Your children, they are all about stewardship. How can you first of all, you steward them so that they will be able to become the kind of children that they need to become, so that they will be able to see themselves as the image and likeness of God, and then you serve them so until they be able to find out who they are in God and be able to live, to embrace their calling, to be able to live for the purposes of God for their lives. Then you release them to become stewards as well of also all the things that God has given them and all the things that you have given to them. So life is about service. Everything we have is about using it to serve other people. If we have a political position, or we have economic power or political power, it's about using it to make sure that we do service to people, we serve others, and we become good stewards of that has been entrusted into our hands. Everything, the purpose of everything is service. The purpose of everything is stewardship. There is a story in the Bible in particular that talks about Jephthah. I remember, I know that you all should remember Jephthah. Jephthah is a man that was born out of an illicit relationship, right? So the father had his own family, then gave birth to this boy from another concubine or from another woman. So, but the community did not take responsibility for that boy. They cast him out. They discriminated against him. So they had family, and instead of using the advantages that they had of family life to be able to use their family to serve this young man who didn't have family, they rather cast him out. That's what we do sometimes when we become so egocentric, self-focused, and self-centered. We don't use what we have as an opportunity to serve. So because you have a family and you see other people who don't have family, most of the time you want to see yourself as better than them. You want to display your superiority over them. But really, if you have family and other people don't have family, it's an opportunity for you to use your family to serve them and to make them understand what protection of the family is, what the acceptance of the family is, and so that they would never miss it and never think that they don't have something. And then if this Jephthah is an illegitimate child or a bastard, well, and you have all your legitimate children, why don't you adopt him? Why don't you accept him and make him not to even think about being an illegitimate child, and cover him in such a way that it will be so much accepted, and he will never even think that it was disadvantaged. That is what life of a service is. That is what life of stewardship is about. That everything we have a comparative advantage over some other people. There are some people that we are better than, and if we are better than them, so we use whatever we have that is better than others to serve them, so that they will not see themselves as disadvantaged, so that they will not see themselves as worse than us, but will rather create leverages for people through our resources and everything we have. That is service, and that is stewardship. So the purpose of wealth is to go there and use that wealth to lift other people out of poverty. The purpose of power is to use that power to raise up those who are falling down, those who need strength, those who need support, so that we use our power to raise them up to the condition and the situation where we are in. That's the purpose of political power, economic power, social power, influence. The purpose of influence and popularity is to use your influence as a leverage, to be able to lift other people up, especially people who are less privileged than yourself. So that is what we are talking about. The purpose of everything is stewardship. The purpose of everything is stewardship. Stewardship is the purpose of everything. You are given everything to serve with them, and if you don't serve with them, you are going to lose them. And you are never, we are not allowed to be possessed by what we have. No, we are not even allowed to possess what we have, to look at what we have as owning them, or owning them. Because once you begin to see yourself as owning something, then you don't want to use them to serve. You are no more a steward. You want to use them for yourself. And then before you know it, those things become bigger than yourself. You become attached to them, and before you know it, those things, they now have dominion over you. They begin to own you. So you would think you own something, but really that thing is what owns you, because you will never be able to release it when God wants you to use it for his purpose. That's why it is never a good thing to see yourself as the owner of whatever you have. It's rather better and safer for you to see yourself as a steward and as a manager of whatsoever that God has trusted into your hand. Another thing is that either you like it or not, sooner or later, whatsoever you have today, you will lose it. It will be taken away from you. So it's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of the length of time, because everything, one way or the other, will be taken away from us. So it's a trust. It's a trust for a season, everything we have. But anyway, in the story of Jephthah that I was referring to, in Israel, the whole country, the whole community rejected that young man. So they didn't serve him, they didn't reach out to him. And that's what I see in Africa today. People who are well-to-do, people who have homes and who have family, who have anything a little bit better than the neighborhood or the others. They try to use those things as their advantage. They try to use those things to suppress other people or to make a point, to prove the point that they are superior and they are of higher class and that they are of higher standard, higher category or clique of the society. And that is what is going on in Africa right now. We use our position, our blessing, to prove our superiority. We want to become the elite, and we want to show the world that we are better than others. We are not looking at life as being a service, and we are not looking at those things that we have and possess as if we are the stewards of those things. So in Africa right now, for example, what you will see is houses that have fences, that have compounds that other people can never get into, houses that are big and that are huge, that could take 20 people, but only 2 people will be living in them. Cars that are flashy, and maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 of these kind of cars, whereas the ordinary people don't even have opportunity to have 3 square meals. So these people are not able to eat, they are not able to send their children to school. The widows, the orphans, the poor, the destitute are all around us, and we don't even pay attention to them because we are living our own lives. We are egocentric. We are we don't see service as the sole purpose of life. We use to take advantage of our position, take advantage of the comparative advantages that we have, and we begin to explore that to make ourselves even more comfortable, even though our desires will never be will never be limited, will never be enough, will never be satisfied. We will never be satisfied. We will always be having unsatiable desires. Our desires will always be unsatiable. We will always be needing more, wanting more, and so that's why our society has become so divided, and this society has become so one-sided, that 3% or 5% of the society are living like they are gods, and then the others are living like they are in hell. And that is because we don't understand stewardship. That's because we don't understand service. That's because we don't understand the purpose of life. We don't understand the purpose of power. We don't understand the purpose of wealth. We don't understand the purpose of the purpose of the wisdom that we have, or education that we have. We want to become the elite. We don't understand the purpose of elitism. We don't understand the purpose of being an elite. So we rather create the dichotomy, the same that was created in the time of Jephthah. But when we read the Bible, like the story of this Jephthah, it's supposed to teach us that we should not repeat their mistake. We should not repeat the mistake of these people, because when they did not accept Jephthah and they rejected him, he went ahead and became a street boy. And then that's, because the people were not aware that whatever they had, the love that they had, they were supposed to be a steward of it. They were supposed to use everything they have to serve. But they were not serving this man. Nobody served this young man. So he became a white person in the street. Then later on, he became more powerful than them. You see, I told you in the beginning that everything we have is temporary. So later on, something happened. That country, Israel, came under attack, and other people came to hijack them or to suppress them, to enslave them. So, and when you are being enslaved, when you are conquered, when you are being exiled and dominated, that means you've lost everything you've got. So all those people who are having good family, they have lost it, because soldiers of other countries are coming to rape the wives, rape the daughters, throw the husbands to the floor, or kill them. The women became widows, children became orphans, and the whole country lost their position. So the same people who did not notice the need of this young man, they themselves have now lost everything. And that is what is going to happen to all of us. We are all going to lose everything we think we have right now. Everything you have, you are going to lose it. Is it beauty that you have? You're going to lose it. If you don't lose it to, to anything, you are going to lose it to age. You are going to lose it to time, to the mother time. If it is wealth that you have, you're going to lose it, because wealth develop wings and fly away. If it is a position that you have, you are going to lose it, either to retirement or to death. Even if you don't lose money physically, but you are going to die and leave it behind, and you will not know what has happened to it. So why is it that we will all lose what we have, and why does God make things to happen that way? For us to be able to think and know that everything that we have, everything that we've been trusted into, that we've been trusted with, that they are only a trust. They are only something that God has entrusted into our hands. We now need to be faithful to those things. We now need to, bow down, to submit those things and put it at the feet of God. That these things don't belong to me. I'm not attached to them. I don't want to be attached to them, but I want to use them to serve your purpose and to do, to be a good steward of these things, so that they will do your will. Well, let's go back to the story of Jephthah. So they didn't pay attention to him. So he went, and one way or the other, growing up in the street, he became a white man and then became a warrior. So when this country was now threatened by other neighbors, and they were about to be totally obliterated and captivated and exiled and enslaved, they had no option but to look for this man, because they have heard about his fame and about his glory. So the person that they had neglected, that they had abandoned, that they did not take care of as an orphan, and they maybe ridiculed and chased out of town, now became their source of deliverance. And this man, gave them a slave. Gave them a condition. And the condition is that all of them must be willing or must agree to be subjected to him. So this man that was chased away, that was cast out, that nobody came to his help, now became the ruler. He became the king over this whole nation. Why? Because they lost their position. They lost everything. That's everything we are given is a trust. So they didn't pass the exam. They didn't fulfill the purpose of the stewardship that was given to them. They didn't fulfill the purpose and desires of God's heart for the things that have been entrusted into their hands. So they lost those things, and they didn't just lose those things, they became a slave to the people that they were supposed to use those things to serve. And there is a scripture in the Bible that says that if you will not serve the Lord your God, that you will serve your enemies. So that's what it means. If we don't make sure that we use everything we have to serve, we will end up serving those things that we try to possess all this while. For example, if you don't use your money to serve God, you might end up using that money to service your health, your sickness, to be running helter-skelter, to just using that money on sicknesses and on diseases. If you don't use your influence to help other people, to serve the purpose of God, you might end up losing that position of influence, and the people that you didn't help will take over that place, and you become a slave or a servant to that person that was your employer or your driver the other day, or to the son, or to the children, to the grandchildren. So so if you would not acknowledge the fact that you are a steward of everything you have, later on you are going to be dominated by those things that you refuse to serve with the things that God has given to you. And like in Europe now, a lot of people in Europe, like even in this country where I live, they look at black people as, and look at how horrible people live in Africa. People are dying, people are living in poverty and $1, $2 a day, and Europeans, Americans are just like, they are arguing about different little things, and they are living like for thousands a day, and they don't even care that these are human beings as well. Well, what will happen is that eventually these same people, black people, or these same people from third world, will find their way there, and they will rule over them. If not in their own lifetime, they will rule over their own children. Why? Because that is just the way things work. Life is about stewardship. If you don't understand it, you will not just lose what you have, because everything we have is temporal. But you will not just lose them, but you will also be dominated by the people that you are supposed to serve with those things that God gave you. So the purpose of wealth is stewardship. The purpose of riches is stewardship. The purpose of riches is not for you to hoard them, and to make them a refuge for yourself. No, the purpose of material things is to serve. And you are not just supposed to be building your own empire with it. The purpose of knowledge is to serve. The purpose of wisdom is stewardship. The purpose of knowledge is stewardship. The purpose of skills is service, is stewardship. The purpose of education is skills, is service, is stewardship. The purpose of faith is stewardship. That's why God told us about your brother coming to you and he doesn't have, and he's hungry, and you told him to go and pray. Your faith is not becoming a service. And because your faith is not a service, your faith is dead. And the same thing with the story of Good Samaritan. The rabbi went by, and because his faith is not service, his faith is dead. And the Levite went by, because the faith is not for service, the faith is dead. And the purpose of everything is service, is stewardship. So let us not repeat the mistake of Jephthah in Judge chapter 11. let us, acknowledge that everything that I have been entrusted by God to serve humanity, to serve other people. Well, I suppose this will be the end of today's message, and I would like you to go and share the message. Share. Let's go and share the message as much as possible. Also, I want to use this opportunity to ask you to send us your telephone and your WhatsApp number so that we could be sending you our messages on a daily basis. And our telephone number is on the screen there for you, where you should send your number to. It is +38 098 596 3838. So if you send us your contact, we will also definitely begin to send you our messages on a daily basis. If you have not yet joined the mentorship program, go there, sundaydelajablog.com/mentorship. And if you want to join our team to Nigeria, go to my blog as well, sundaydelajablog.com/Nigeria. If you want to read my books, you can read them for free on Kindle Unlimited, or you could buy them on Amazon or my blog, sundaydelajablog.com/books, or you could go to okadabooks.com. And that will be it for today. Nice talking to you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hello, and welcome to the program. The program you're about to see will challenge your Christianity. And if you thirst for the things of the kingdom, it will spur you onto higher heights in God. And it is about a ministry which is actually the largest in Europe, known as God's Embassy. And the senior pastor of the church is here with me to talk about what this organization is all about. Why is there so much happening within the organization? What kind of impact it's having? And also, how can you gain or learn from what they have done for you to take your own territory to the glory of God? You know what? Sit back and watch. And remember, you can always get copies of this material, because we're going to be talking in depth about Embassy of God here in Kiev, in the Ukraine. God bless you as you continue to watch. Welcome to the program, Pastor Sunday.
Thank you so much, Pastor Yemi, and it's a privilege to have you in the Ukraine. You came all the way to the Ukraine to have this session with me, and I appreciate it deeply. Thank you so much.
Unbelievable. And you know, because of my travels and the nature of what I do, I see that the same way God would identify somebody to use, the same way the enemy too can just identify somebody to just use and just do certain things to make sure it connects. But thank God for the word of God. He says the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. But then after you got born again, you had opportunities to either go to America or to go to Russia. What happened?
Yes. So that is what happened. I was looking for scholarship everywhere. At this time, one of my brothers, the one that was 16 when this happened, and that was in high school, had now moved, had graduated, so he couldn't. He had to do his school certs and secondary school WAEC, what they call it.
The school certificate exam.
Yes, he had to do his school certificate examination.
And the West African Examination Council's exam.
Yeah, he had to do all that from home. No teachers, nothing. So he struggled. He was the senior after people like me. So he struggled and had to do his A-levels and O-levels at home. And eventually he got a scholarship himself to Russia. So at this time, he was in Russia. But also, because through this newspaper, they used to have something they call Bureau for Foreign Students or something in Nigeria. So through this Bureau for Foreign Students, the federal government was giving scholarships out. So in this year, we had 300,000 people, young people applying for scholarship. And they only needed to take 300. So, but I had an offer to go to Columbia University in New York. That was one of the top universities in America. And then, through my brother, I was able to get another scholarship to Russia. So they gave me a choice in this board. Had I go to Russia or USA or England? So when I went to my pastor, I was just a new believer at this time, maybe 3 months or 4 months. So I said, these are the opportunities I have. So he said we should pray about it, and the following week I should come. So I came to him the following week, and he said, it was a deeper life pastor. So he said, well, you know, you could go to England or America, but if you really want to serve the Lord, and you treasure Jesus above everything, I would advise you to go to Russia, because even though there is no faith there, and Christians are not there, and the few Christians that are there, sometimes they send them to Siberia or put them in prison, but if you can survive it, you survive it everywhere.
Wow.
But if you go to America, there are no temptations, no persecutions. There are no persecutions for your faith. But there are other temptations, in the sense that it's materialistic society. Yeah. So you could be tempted to be distracted and things like that. So I would advise you to go to Russia, because if you survive it in Russia, you amount to something for God.
Wow.
So I was 19, and I was willing to take the challenge. I told God, I'm going, I'm to give my life for you. That was my initial decision, my initial determination, that I will go ready to give my life for the Lord, if need be, in Russia, and if need be, to go to be ready to be sent to Siberia.
And then you headed straight to Russia.
Yes.
And when you arrived in Russia, what happened?
Well, I was only 6 months old this time.
As a Christian?
As a Christian. But before I could leave Nigeria, I had another problem. Okay, first of all, before I did my WAEC, my school certificate exam, I needed to pay 50 naira. 50 naira was a big money for me. I needed another 3 months to make that kind of, or 6 months to make $50. So, but this was a school term. It was only after the exams you have holidays. So I couldn't make that money before to be able to pay for my school certificate examinations, to my graduation exams. And without paying that money, you are not allowed to sit for the exams. So I was almost being kicked out of the examination, my final exams. So, you know, some people, my relatives and my sister, everybody started running about. Up till now, it's just last year that I got to know where the money came from. I didn't know where the money came from. Somebody just said, it has been paid, go and write your exams. So a lot of pressure. If I won't write, so that was another miracle for me to even write my graduation exam. Then after that, I had my summer holidays, so I made some money, then I paid for JAMB myself. So before I left Nigeria, my result came for the JAMB is what the matriculation exams that you give to enter universities in Nigeria. So I had been admitted to a leading university in Nigeria called University of Ife. So I had the third best result in the admission process. So, but I couldn't go. So I knew I had to travel to Russia. But before I could go to Russia, I needed to pay for the ticket. The scholarship did not include ticket.
Wow.
That was where the crisis started. So I was supposed to leave the country in August, because the scholarship was there, and I was supposed to leave in August because the school session, the term starts in September. I didn't get to Russia till the end of September, when we had lost and missed almost a month. The classes were on. I almost lost the scholarship. And you know the reason why? I couldn't find 700 naira from anybody, all our relatives. We tried to sell everything we had. I couldn't get 700 naira to buy a ticket.
Wow, that is serious.
So we didn't find that money eventually. We didn't find it.
So how did you get the ticket?
Eventually, we had to apply. I had to write an explanatory letter to the scholarship board. And the scholarship board had to send my letter, address my letter to the Russian government. And the Russian government had to add a committee to consider what to do with this. This guy had a good result. There are other people that's already arrived, but there are other people that could take my place, but they would have, so they either compromise, they could take a worse result.
Who had the money for the ticket?
Forfeit me, yeah, who had the money for the ticket and forfeit the brilliant one. So the question was very hard. So for 2 weeks they were deciding. The government says we don't give scholarship with ticket. They have to pay their way. We pay their way back. They pay their way here. So what happened was they took the decision, and one of the people in the committee was the representative of the Communist Party of Russia. So they said, if he's so brilliant, let's just recruit him to the Communist Party, by the Communist Party. So the Communist Party will pay for his ticket, with the intention that if he's so brilliant, it will be an instrument. It will be
top communist when he gets back.
Yes.
To change the whole country.
To be able to, yes.
God is...
But before I left the country, I got saved.
Unbelievable. God is a dangerous God.
Yes.
You see, they had a different agenda, but God was doing his own thing differently.
Yes.
So thank God for your life. Okay, but before we start talking about your experiences in Russia. So looking back now to your background, how you grew up, the ups and downs and everything, in what way do you think your background really influenced your Christian walk?
For example, I would say the way it influenced my life altogether. First of all, my background of hard labor and hard work helps me up to now, because I've learned to be hardworking because of that. And I didn't like it when I was going through it. When my grandmother was making me to go through all the, forest and bush and firewood and all that, I was cursing myself. I was cursing the day I was born, cursing her, cursing everything around me. But when I got to Russia, I discovered that I needed to study extra, because I came late. And then my professor said, you would never master this language because you came late, then you have a funny accent. And there's no way you can ever speak this language, that you are not going to make it. So that was when I said, I will study, I will work hard. So from that day, I took a decision that I will read like never before. I said, what will it cost me to go to the library? I never saw a library in my life, because I went to a community local school, nothing like library, but I saw library. They had, rugs on the floor. They had, everything cool, warm, aircon in the summer. And I said, hey, my God, if I was in the sun that I endured in my village just to eat, and the struggle and the pain and the suffering that I needed to go through just to eat and go to school. Now you are giving me apartment, you are giving me a room, you are giving me, I'm not even working, you're giving me all this luxury just to read. I said I will use this energy that I used to gather firewood. I will use that energy to devour these books. So
wow, really, thank God for, well, that's, that's talking mostly about also the spiritual side of things, time management and all those other bits. What about in the area, when we say the area of, say, maybe pride or materialism?
Oh, that is a big one. Well, like we used to have everything before I was 6. Our family, we had everything. So when this tragedy happened in our family and we lost everything, and all the prominent people died in 6 months, and then from having everything to having nothing, to almost being homeless and just going to the bush just to eat. My brother that was in school, he was in boarding school, he was the top student there, respected by everybody, and he had to be sent back home. So when he came home, he was always crying every day. And when he cried, he would say, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose his soul? So everybody was saying, why do you always say this? What will it profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose his soul? What will it profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose his soul? So they said, why were you saying this all the time? So then he told us a story that it was a star of the school, having everything he needed. That now, when all his resources had gone and all his brothers that he relied on that died, some kids in his class were mocking him and making a joke at him and started quoting, who are not Christians, but these guys knew that scripture. So they were quoting it to him that, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose his soul? So that you had everything and then you have lost everything. What does it profit you? But it had a deeper meaning. We didn't know that, but we are only thinking about our particular situation at that particular time, that we had everything and then we lost everything. So that totally killed in me the desire and the hunger for material things, because we already had it. So what does it profit you to first of all have it? It's better not to even have it than to have it and then go and lose it. And I know what that means, because we used to have it. I never knew what was bush or firewood, or would getting injuries in your body because you needed to get firewood. But now we had it, then we lost everything. And what does it profit? It's good to even not taste it than to have it and then lose it. So that also left a mark, indelible mark in me, saying, so if you can have it, get everything, the whole world, and then lose it, or lose your soul, it means it's not the paramount thing. It's not the most important thing. It's not the paramount thing. So if it's not the paramount thing, there must be something higher. So I lost taste for anything material since then. So even now, I don't fancy prosperity messages or talking about money. I can't stand it. Even though, I'm blessed, it's not because because of that I don't like prosperity or something. I use it, but I never think it's something we should focus on, or we should make a focal point, or of people, and making people to focus on that. So because you will lose it eventually, even if you don't lose it in this world, when you die you will still lose it. So it's not so, and that is the wisdom Jesus was trying to teach us, that don't focus on material things. But I learned that the hard way. I learned that lesson the hard way. So that is one thing. But also our family, our upbringing also helped me, because in our family nobody was smoking or drinking, or so things like that.
Your grandmother that looked after you in the village, it's like she became like a mother to you. You got so attached to her.
She was the only mother I knew. She was the only mother I knew, because what happened was, I had a very interesting story. I grew up in this family. It's called Adelaja family. In Idomila, they actually call it the Bale family. It's like the local chief, local king, the village king, the village king. So that is the royal family. So the father, the father of the house had died before I came to the world. So my mother was one of the daughters of the king. So she married a man from the big town, the Ijebu town. And but this man that she married happened to be a brute of some sort. He was abusing her, beating her, maybe drinking as well. Something, maybe it was violent, maybe it was not drinking, but somehow violent. But there are two parts to this story. Some people say it's because it was so poor that the royal family was saying it's a disgrace for our daughter to be married to him. But other people say, that's what I was told when I was growing up, that it was abusing my mother. So to cut a long story short, the family of my mother, the royal family, said, no, we will not allow our daughter to be married to this kind of a man, maybe because of his poverty or because he was a brute. So they decided, they had just been wedded for 6 months. They decided to take back their daughter. That's the language. We are going to collect or take back their daughter. So they took their daughter back, my mom, back home, and they were ready to give her in marriage to another man. Then they discovered she was pregnant. And get what that pregnancy was. Who was inside?
That was you.
That was me.
Wow.
So they had to let her stay back in the family house. So she was 6 months pregnant or 5 months pregnant. And then, so she came back pregnant from this man, but they had divorced, no, they had cut relationship. So, and they would not allow her to go back to him. And they would not allow him to come and even see her or see the child. So she gave birth. Then she stayed maybe in the family for 2 years, and then she married again. So she married to another state altogether. So she left, and I was left with my grandmother, with her mother. So then there were other kids that were bigger than me. So I grew up with everybody else. So, just a little bit over me, and I was the last. So it was natural for me to think the grandmother was my mother, because there were people just over me, and we were all in the family. And then I was calling her my mother, in our local language. And until I was 12 years old, when somebody came to visit us. Maybe she had been coming before then when I was smaller, but I couldn't recollect. But when I was 12, they said somebody had come to visit us. Then one day I was playing in the bank, and somebody said, "That is your mother." I was so annoyed. She was a younger lady, but I said, "No, that is my mother." So I couldn't comprehend it, or to reconcile the fact that this younger lady was my mother. My mother was supposed to be the old woman, And then I went to my grandmother to talk to her about it. And she said, that was anyway when the truth came out, that she was not my mother. But at that time, I didn't have any motherly feeling. I couldn't really have any motherly feeling to any other person. The only person I could have this motherly feeling to was my grandmother. So it's a great loss for parents who give away their children before they are matured enough to love them. So up to now, even though I love my mother, but I'm loving her out of obligation. Wow. I love her with Christ's love, but my real love, with the maternal love, the really, family love, the really blood love I had for my grandmother that I lost when I was 15. Wow. So now I still feel I don't have a mother, or even though I love my mother.
But in 1 minute, you wrote a book about her called Olorunwa, which means there is God. Can you just in 1 minute tell us what you put together in that book?
It's my way of saying thank you to her. I wrote her a letter in that book, and I was addressing others. I've dreamt for her to live to see who I am today. I never knew she would never live to see. I was a hooligan when I was growing up with her. I was abusive to her. I was non-obedient. I was disobedient to her. I was violent. I was, rough, and I was totally disobedient. And I was thinking when I grew up, I would recompense and would compensate for her. But I lost the opportunity. So this book, Olorunwa, was the name she used to call me. I said, that your Olorunwa has become the dream you had for him.
Well, you know what? I want to just thank you for watching. And this particular program is ended here. But there is a part 2. And there's going to be a part 3. So please make sure you're on the lookout for the second part of it. God bless you as you continue to watch and put into practice what you have heard. Bye for now.
If you have been watching our videos and maybe you enjoy them, maybe you don't enjoy them, but still we need you to help us spread the word. And for that to happen, we only need you to take 5 little steps. Please help us spread this word by liking the video. Then, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We also need you to press the notification button, and the way to do that is to click on the bell. You see the bell there? Click on it. Then, of course, leave your comments. Let's know what you're thinking about each video. And finally, we need you to go and share the word. Share this video on your Facebook timeline, on your Instagram, and every other platform that you have. All right? Let's win the world for Christ. Thank you so much.